Welcome back to Circus Stories, the Circus History Podcast.
Hello.
I'm your host, Callie B.
And hello, it's me. I'm Mark Renaudin.
And we're going to bring you another fascinating story.
Well, both.
From Circus History. But first, I'm going to introduce our circus word of the day.
Gotta do it.
Today's word is Donaker.
Donaker? Can I make a guess?
Yes, please.
It is a style of pants similar to overalls.
Oh.
But usually beige.
Not close, but I love it. The Donaker is the bathroom, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta take your Donaker off to go to the Donaker.
Yes, you do. The Donaker, it's just like the portable bathrooms.
Outhouse, the privy, the loo.
Yeah, it's the bathrooms that they have to set up every time they move.
Why do they give it an extra name? Is it so that the audience doesn't know you're talking about the poop closet?
Probably. You know, when you're on set and they have like those portable wagon, they call it the honey wagon, those bathrooms.
Yeah,
same
I know
shit.
those. The nicest word for bathroom you'll ever hear.
Right. Yeah. So these are probably not nice bathrooms. Donakers. I'm assuming. I don't know.
Just a wooden outhouse.
I can't imagine they were very nice. I really don't know.
No, I mean, in the past, they probably just had a bucket. They're like, that's all you need.
They used to give, everybody on the circus was given 1 bucket of water a day.
To poop in?
No, just for water, for washing and stuff.
Oh, okay. How big's the bucket? Because,
like your average pail.
Is it as big as my jug?
Yeah, probably.
I drink more than one of these a day. That's not enough.
But it's for like washing yourself, not drinking.
Oh, it's not drinking.
Washing, rinsing,
face
all that
splashing
stuff.
when you just got terrible news.
Oh, yeah. Or you need to be revived.
Yes. Have you guys ever done that? Like, I've never done it. I've never gotten some like tough news and then gone to the bathroom and splashed water in my face and then looked in the mirror and said, okay, Mark, we can do this. Never once. I don't know anyone who's done it. And I'm curious if that's just a movie thing.
I'm sure it is.
Have you ever splashed water on your face to like get a grip?
I've smacked my face.
I think I've done that more than I've done water splashing.
Yeah, a lot actually.
Yeah.
Often when driving. Like, don't crash. Stay awake.
Stay awake and don't crash, you.
But no water. But maybe if I had water in that instance, then that would be much better off than abusing myself.
Maybe you can get a little spritz bottle like you do for disciplining cats and you can just spray yourself whenever you need.
Another kitten analogy from Mark. I love it.
Ever since my house got cats, that's all I think of. They're so cute. Everyone should get 2 cats.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say. God, I keep burping. I started to drink a Corona seltzer. Bad idea. Not before I'm supposed to talk about it.
It's crazy to me that everyone is like, alcoholic seltzer. Like, who? Clearly it's taking off and people are just responding to that. But if you just look, I've never tried a White Claw, but like the idea of it sounds gross to me.
Likewise, for me, I felt the same way until about 2 months ago. And now it's my lifeblood.
Now you're all in. So I'm curious as someone who enjoys them, because I've never had it. Do you taste, like, does it just taste like seltzer? Is there a boozy taste to it? No,
because I hate beer and I'm not a boozy lady. Not a boozy lady. Okay.
Sure.
For those who think I am, I'm not. No, it just tastes like seltzer. There's like a tinge of, but barely, which is why they're so dangerous.
Would you say it's closer to beer in its tinginess or like a hard liquor?
It tastes like liqueur, which is whatever. Lacroix.
Liquax. The duck version, Liquax.
Tastes like that. Liquax.
Would you like a Liquax? Hank?
Yeah, Donald Duck's brand. Yeah, it tastes like a seltzer.
Okay.
And then after 4, you're like, fuck, I'm full and hammered.
Yeah, you're like, oh, shit.
I'm bloated and hammered.
Oh, shit, I didn't try to get up in between then and now, and oh, boy.
It's really attractive. It makes you burp a lot, and then you're drunk.
Nice.
It's cool.
Nice, yeah.
So, I told you it's elephant adjacent, Mark, prior to...
Elephant adjacent, and I'm so excited. The possibilities are elephant endless. I couldn't combine the words.
I did want to talk about Greatest Showman. Maybe we should talk about that in another episode.
Oh, yes. As a quick aside, my mom has been texting me about the movie The Greatest Showman and how much she thinks Callie would hate it.
I have notes about how much I hated it.
I'm glad she will feel vindicated that she was right.
I had to write them down. I was like stretching on a yoga mat and just screaming at the TV.
Well, you gotta get your mind and body de-stressed.
Nick's like, what are you doing? And I was like, no.
This song is inaccurate. It's not Hugh's fault that this movie's bad. He never had a chance.
Hugh was great. I mean, if it were fictional completely, it'd be like, what a fantastical film, you know? But it's not. It's supposed to be based off P.T. Barnum. So I guess you can't cast like a very unattractive person and be like, come see this.
Yeah, these days, everyone, hot people sell tickets.
Hot people. And truly the redeeming factor in this movie was Zendaya and
I didn't know she was in it. And Hugh.
And Zac Efron.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Who does Zac play?
A hot person, you know?
Just a random circus hottie?
Yeah, they're both hot. Yeah.
Are they both random circus hotties?
Well, Zendaya's like a trapeze artist. And Zac Efron.
But are they like specific people that we might now know about?
No, they're fictional. I mean, they're based on a ton of people rolled into one. But Zac Efron's just like a guy who's like, I'm going to partner with you and be the ringmaster and whatever.
They're just picking hot people who can sing, you know? It's like,
right.
And if you can do both,
you're in, baby.
You're in.
The representation of freaks is excellent. I will say that.
That's good, at least.
That's the only upside there. It was good because there's hot people in it.
How are the tunes?
They were fine. I fast forwarded through a couple. I'm not going to lie. Nick's like, you cannot. I was like, I have to.
It's like, we got to get through this. I got to find all the factual inaccuracies.
Yeah. There was, a storyline between Zendaya and Zac Efron.
Of course there was, because they're the hottest people in the movie.
Right.
No offense, Hugh.
I mean, he was with a hot Michelle Williams. It's fine. They're hot too.
And also, Hugh Jackman is like, what did we figure out? He's like 50 and still looks great.
51.
Yeah. Just nuts. Did we talk about this on the podcast that his wife is like 20 years older than him?
No, she's 13 years older.
13 old. Yeah. And they've been married since he was a nobody. I think she was actually an actor in Australia, if I'm remembering this correctly. An actor in Australia, and she was more legit. And then they started dating, and then he became very legit, and they stayed together.
Interesting.
As a good power couple.
I love that. I like that.
I'm going to double check that while we're on the air so I can not have a Cali Correction Mark edition.
And then there's one scene between the hot people, Zac Efron and Zendaya.
Do they smooch?
Where, of course.
Okay, good.
But they're doing this thing where she's like, we can't be together. It's like a very we're a biracial couple. We can't do that.
Oh, yeah. It's the past and junk.
Right. And then there's a beautiful singing number between the two where they do multiple aerial acts.
Oh, good.
And so I was like, the rigging would never allow this.
Yeah, this could never be.
But it was beautiful, and I really enjoyed watching it because I know those are real circus performers doing it, so I liked it. But also I was like, you cannot go from Lyra to Spanish Web to Silks to in 3 minutes.
Just can't do it.
But I liked it. No one was re-rigging her stuff. That's impossible. But it was really lovely to watch.
That's good.
As far as that's concerned. So I can't not recommend that movie enough.
Yeah, don't see it.
It's fine. It's it's pretty.
Yeah, just know that it's a fairy tale version.
So today I promised an elephant adjacent story.
Yes. What do we got?
I wanted to discuss a very famous figure. And
oh boy. Though
he was involved in circus for a brief time, he's quite well known, and all the lore that goes along with him is super well known. So
Dumbo?
I decided to do a deep dive into the life of Joseph Merrick.
Oh, who is that? Is that an elephant's name?
It's AKA the Elephant Man.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. That is elephant adjacent.
Have you ever watched that film, The Elephant Man?
I have not.
You know who directs it is the Lynch.
David?
Yeah, David Lynch. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
I think I knew that, but I watched it and I was like, you sure did. You sure did direct this.
So is 20 minutes of the movie just a blank screen and electrical whooshes?
I mean, it's black and white.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, it's
do scenes linger on way longer than they need to?
There's a lot of what the fuck? So I watched it after I did a lot of research.
That's probably for the best.
Which was smart.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of parts where I was like, what is happening?
David Lynch loves to have those moments where you're just kind of like, what the fuck is going on? And he's like, I don't care if you understand or not. I just want to make a cool thing.
It's a dreamy scary moment.
It's spooky scary. Like a Halloween cat.
Yeah. Oh, God.
I mean,
That's what it was. It was ridiculous, but it was good.
as we talked earlier in pandemic, I watched way too much David Lynch stuff. Me and my roommates watched all of every Twin Peak thing. And I gotta say, first season and a half of Twin Peaks is very good, very compelling. It uses David Lynch's ridiculousness in like a grounded enough way where it like feels like it's all tracking. But then the second half of the second season is like meandering nonsense, and then the return is just like
pedal to the metal Lynch.
If you like his out there, yeah, it's like no restraint from like having, you know, someone working with him or like a studio being like, we need to have a little bit of like, you know, plot that follows some kind of like, so any logic. You can make the logic up, but it needs to follow some vague logic.
Something.
And he's like, no, I'm bitter now.
Yeah, I watched that. It was a 1980 film, The Elephant Man. It was with Anthony Hopkins.
Okay, the Hop.
And John Hurt, so great cast to start. I mean, and also Anne Bancroft, great. Really led some heavy hitters in this movie, but
sure.
And it was pretty accurate, which I cannot say for The Greatest Showman.
Which one of them plays the Elephant Man?
John Hurt.
John Hurt. I want to Google him.
But yeah, it was directed by the Lynch, and it shows. Lots of black and white, creepy fade outs, and random bits that I don't know why, but it was good. So Joseph Merrick, aka the Elephant Man, he was born August 5th, 1862 in Leicester, England. His father was also named Joseph. His mother was named Mary Jane. Her maiden name was Potterton.
Mary Jane Potterton? Are you fucking with me? That's the weediest name I've ever heard of.
Weedy.
Mary Jane Potterson?
Potterton, but
fucking
yeah, I know.
Come on. Potterton. I mean, either way. Wow.
Yeah. First name Weed, last name Weed.
First name Weed, last name Smoking.
Yeah, smoking this weed.
Heck yeah.
So Joseph Merrick, he was born a healthy baby, but he started to exhibit symptoms of his condition around the age of 2 when he started to develop enlarged bumps on his lips.
Oh dear.
Do you know what he looks like, the Elephant Man?
No, I don't. I'll admit. I should Google it, I bet.
Well, I have a bunch of images in
the Googie Drive?
Yeah.
Let me go on the Googie Drive and see.
Or Kath, can you share?
I found the folder. Elephant Man pics. Oh boy. Oh dear.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Oh shit, his skull actually deforms? It's not just like growths?
No, so I'll explain all of the reasoning and all the stuff.
Whoa. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's wild.
Is it like painful?
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah. He started to exhibit symptoms of his condition around the age of 2 when he started to develop enlarged bumps on his lips. After a few years, his condition would worsen. By age 5, his parents started to notice that he developed patches of lumpy gray skin. So as lore goes, his parents attributed his condition to his mother being frightened by a charging elephant during a circus procession in town during her pregnancy.
Well, yeah, that of course is why this happened.
Right.
I can't believe. So if you guys go to the our Instagram, you'll see the images. But his skeleton has the growths on it. It's like it's that deep into him. It's pretty wild when you look at this.
Yeah. So his skeleton starts to form bony bumps and lumps, basically.
It's a huge growth.
On top of that, like there's a bunch of other like his spine was curved, his femur on his right femur
bigger than the other
was bigger and had the growths, but see how he has like scoliosis of the spine quite a bit.
Yeah, he's like hunched quite.
Yeah.
It's like a very zigzaggy spine.
And his skull, because of all of those growths, was extremely large
and probably super heavy.
Very heavy. Exactly right. Yeah.
Probably part of the reason his spine got kind of fucked up is just like the weight is all off.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. Surely. And also just that curvature of the spine is a symptom, not a symptom, but it's a part of the condition that he's suspected to have.
Yeah.
His parents allegedly suspected that his condition was because of this charging elephant that basically frightened his mom while she was pregnant. She fell over, because of this charging elephant. And then they just chalked it up to his condition happening because of this elephant frightening Mary Jane because, you know, she was pregnant and then he came out this way, which is, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. You're a little baby in a microwave oven belly and you get knocked around and then your bones explode in big shapes. Like, what?
Yeah, I don't know. And it's strange because it's like, of all the animals you think an elephant, that doesn't look like that at all. But that's fine.
No. Yeah, I was kind of wondering why he was called the Elephant Man. I was like, is it just because his like head is large?
I think it's because his nose is, I guess that's what they chose.
Are there color images of him in that? Is there a discoloration in the growths, or is it his like skin color?
So the lumpy skin is a little grayer.
Okay, that could make sense too.
It can be, but not all of it is gray. But some of it is some of it has patchy gray.
Yeah.
Yes. So that it also attributes to that because of its grayish color, you know, and it's lumpy. That's part of why they thought it might be.
Yeah. What a weird superstition that you're so scared by one animal that the fear of that animal makes your baby vaguely resemble it. Like
right?
people's
right?
rationale. And I mean, I get if this happened, you're like, what the fuck? I have no idea what this is. But what a weird What a weird thing to guess that it is. So
despite his own belief that his deformities had been a result of his mother's encounter with this elephant, the actual cause of the condition had been a medical mystery at the time, and since has been a subject of much discussion still in the medical world, even some 130 years later following his death.
Do we know?
So his condition was initially considered to be an extreme case of elephantitis.
Okay.
But now, with more medical knowledge, the disorder is now thought to have been a severe, if not the most severe case documented of neurofibromatosis. So what that is...
Yeah, what is that?
There's 3 types, but this is most likely type 1.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2 other types, I think, are less severe. But type 1 occurs in 1 in 3,000 to 4,000 people worldwide.
Okay.
According to the Mayo Clinic. But neurofibromatosis, or N1F1, is a genetic disorder that causes tumors to form on nerve tissue.
Oh, dear.
These tumors can develop anywhere in your nervous system, including your brain, your spinal cord, and your nerves.
So wait, does that mean that this skeleton is this shape not because the bones themselves grew this way, but because tumors grew on his brain and his skull adapted to house it? It's interesting. So they think it could be a combination of another thing. Oh, this and something else?
Yeah. So that's why it's confusing.
Oh,
so it can also lead to large folds of skin, lumps, and or tumors on the skin as well. Neurofibromatosis is usually non-cancerous. There's 3 types of this condition. Type 1 usually appears in childhood. Type 2 and 3 usually in early adulthood. So that's why they suspect it's type 1. Type 1 can cause bone deformities.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, learning disabilities and high blood pressure. Type 2 can cause hearing loss, vision loss, difficulty with balance. Type 3 can cause chronic pain throughout the body. Now, he didn't have hearing loss, really. I mean, other than the fact that his ears were compromised.
Yeah, like swollen shut, basically.
And, you know, his vision, everything was fine otherwise, you know, and he was not unintelligent.
Mm-hmm.
So some cases may not require treatment. His was obviously very severe. Most adults with neurofibromatosis type 1 develop neurofibromas, which are non-cancerous tumors that are usually located on or just under the skin. These tumors may also occur in nerves near the spinal cord or along nerves elsewhere in the body. Some people with neurofibromatosis type 1 develop cancerous tumors that grow along the nerves. These tumors, which develop in adolescent or adulthood, are called malignant peripheral nerve sheath tumors.
Oh, dear.
So these people with the type 1 also have increased risk of other cancers, including brain tumors and cancer of blood-forming tissue. So it's just like...
This guy can't catch a break. It's just like thing after thing after thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of shit. Also, other symptoms can include hypertension, short stature. He was 5'2".
I mean, it makes sense. His spine got all zigzagged. I mean, he probably, if he stood up.
Unusually large head, skeletal abnormalities, such as an abnormal curvature of the spine.
Yep, he got that.
Most people with neurofibromatosis have normal intelligence. It says they may have ADHD sometimes, but you know, who doesn't?
Yeah, but
who fucking doesn't?
These days, with screens, how can you not?
Yeah, some genealogists say that it could be an unfortunate combo of both neurofibromatosis and a disease known as Proteus syndrome.
What is that?
Proteus syndrome is a rare condition characterized by overgrowth of the bone, skin, and other tissues. So
okay.
It's similar. Organs and tissues can be affected as well as the rest of the body, though growths can press on vital internal organs. The overgrowth is usually asymmetric, which means it affects the right and left side of the body differently.
Well, this guy seems more specifically on like his right side. There's more of these growths.
Right. So that's why it's suspected. Some suspect he could potentially have both the N1F1 gene, neurofibromatosis, and the Proteus gene. But I watched a recent documentary about him, and they're just kind of figuring out more of like his condition.
Yeah.
And a British genealogist did some tests on his skeletal remains, and she was like, I have one chance and I got to do this right, because it's like they had to like pull his skeleton out of the London Royal Hospital, because it's like on display there, and scrape it.
Yeah.
And so she tested it and found that his Proteus gene was intact and not compromised.
So does that mean he doesn't have the second one we were talking about?
Right. So most likely he doesn't. It can't be 100% conclusive.
Yeah.
But most likely he doesn't have Proteus syndrome.
Well, so, I mean, I guess he wasn't just like, I mean, at the end of the day, he was still super unlucky genetically. Like, it's just a bummer.
Yeah, but he could have both, who's to know? It's that skeleton's been there for 130 years. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I wonder how, DNA and stuff that old, how reliable it is with tests and junk.
Right.
Because whatever he might have had might be dead now, like.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That's true. Yeah.
But I also don't know zilch about bone medicine. So maybe it's very,
medicine,
maybe.
Right. Bone science, Dr. Bone stuff.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about, all I know is that there's a show called Bones where they study bones.
Yes, they do.
I think that they don't do dinosaur bones, which is disappointing. But that's basically all I know about bones. The two people that are hot flirt with each other while looking at bones. That's my understanding of that show.
They do.
I mean, that's what people want for TV. They want hot people flirting.
I want more flirting.
That's what I want. Even since I was a kid, when I was watching like Pokemon, I was just like, Ash and Misty should flirt more. I want them to end up together.
So as Merrick grew older, he developed more severe deformities until his head and body were covered with various bony and fleshy tumors. Despite this, Merrick had a relatively normal childhood.
That's good.
Yeah, he attended local school, though I'm sure he's extremely uncomfortable physically.
I mean, yeah, there's no way. I mean, kids are the shittiest if your name is weird. You know what I mean? Like if it rhymes with anything that they can use against you, they will do it. I can't imagine what this poor kid, like, who just physically looked different would just get it.
Very much, yeah. So in 1873, Merrick was just 11 years old and his beloved mother, Mary Jane, passed away.
Oh, come on.
Allegedly passing away from bronchial pneumonia.
Damn.
So this was devastating for Merrick.
This family can't catch a break with the health stuff.
No, and that's interesting. So he would never really get over his mother's passing.
Yeah, how old was he?
He was 11.
Eef.
And maybe because I was like the only person that showed him compassion. And so, interesting. So Mary Jane was supposedly handicapped herself. And I read that she had 3 other children before that had passed away before Merrick.
What, in what way was she handicapped?
I think she was paralyzed.
Okay. Like waist down?
Yes.
Okay.
So I watched that documentary and they were trying to figure out the lineage of Joseph Merrick, and they had to go back to Mary Jane Potterton's line because he had no siblings that had kids, perhaps because they all died.
Yeah.
They're basically trying to figure out, like, is this hereditary? How is this hereditary? And they worked forwards, from Mary Jane Potterton. And they found that a lot of family on both sides either had died or had cancer of some sort.
Huh. So there's a lot of like tumor junk in both sides of the family. Okay.
Yeah. And then there was one other female that was born paralyzed as well. So I thought that was interesting.
This family can't catch a break.
Yeah. So there's some hereditary something there.
Yeah. I suppose that it is one of those things of like, the more both sides of the family have genetically these like issues, the more likely their kids will.
Right.
What he must have been just like the perfect storm of like unfortunate ingredients, you know, like
Truly. I mean, he is that's why he's so well known now. He didn't really get any attention until those films and adaptations of his story came out in the 70s and 80s.
Which is kind of surprising because his case is like, you know, a lot of times with medical stuff, like if you can't physically see it, it's a lot harder for people to like either empathize. I mean, now people know that like cancer is obviously a very big deal and everything like that. But like, I feel like the fact that his condition is so visibly striking and unique even now, it's like surprising to me that he didn't. I mean, maybe just because there wasn't enough like way to get the word out back then, unless he had like a piece in the paper about him with a photo. It's only if you heard of the circus and went to it that you'd see him.
Yeah. And he didn't travel super, like he wasn't all over the world.
I mean, I could imagine it would be difficult for him if it just like kind of hurts to move. I mean, well, I don't actually, does it?
Yes, it's painful, at least. Yeah, it's painful. Depending on where they are in your body, but yes, it's painful. I was watching The Elephant Man, the movie, and I was like crying because I was like, it's so painful because it's painful, that condition. And when F1, that neurofibromatosis is super painful. So I'm just like, he's in so much pain.
And like back then, they don't have good ways of dealing with that. I mean, even now they don't have great ways of dealing with it.
Yeah. And but like, he's constantly getting his ass kicked also. Like,
oh yeah, because people are the worst.
Yeah. So his father, now that his mother's passed away, his father, who's described as a cruel man, soon remarries, allegedly to their landlady. Smart guy. Good job. So Merrick leaves school at his stepmother's request. I'm assuming that she's like, hey, you have to start working, because he leaves school and starts to work at her request. So he's 12. Both the stepmother and the father are just kind of described as unwelcoming and cruel. But
yeah.
So he's forced to leave school and he has to find work. So he starts working at a cigar factory rolling cigars. I mean, and this is like the 1870s, and kids, they're probably like, why haven't you started sooner?
Yeah, they can do whatever for like a penny.
Like you should be. This is retirement age.
Yeah, seriously. An education, you don't need that to roll cigars.
Yeah, get it together. So he's rolling cigars in a factory, but within a few years, his condition starts to worsen.
Yeah, I wonder how bad it was when they took him out of school for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he's continually progressing. His condition worsens and he can't roll the cigars anymore because his right hand has become so enlarged, almost double the size of his left hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's too deformed to roll.
Does his fingers almost like fuse together a little bit? Is that what I saw? Or did they just like...
It's just so ballooned that it's just like...
It kind of is hard to tell.
It's like a mitt almost.
Yeah.
Just a big mitt of a hand. So he's unable to use his right hand to roll cigars anymore. So he has to leave that job. His left foot would also be that enlarged eventually with bony growths and lumps. Soon his enlarged left foot would eventually make walking super difficult, and he would eventually have to like kind of drag it. Soon he'll eventually use a cane to walk.
I mean, as much as like the idea of being, going to a circus and being like quote unquote a freak and people looking at you as this thing, I do also wonder if it almost is like, I mean, I know that PT this wasn't during PT's era, was it? That he joined the circus?
Well, he's in London, but yes, it is.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
But I do wonder because, obviously anyone who's trying to hire him could probably be doing it from a very exploitative reason. But on one hand, it might be an environment where people aren't absolute assholes to him. And maybe he can actually have a job.
Right.
Because, like what can you do when especially in those days, it's like, you're just that physically deformed, like what actual especially because like he didn't get to stay in school, so it's not like he could learn like a trade that was like all mental. He probably had to do a lot of physical stuff, and he can't do physical stuff. Right.
So his father owns a haberdashery, which is...
What is that? Is that a hash brown factory?
I included that because I was like, you'll love that word, so I just put it in for you.
Please and thank you.
It's like basically goods for like tailoring goods, so like ribbons, so like sewing goods, buttons, gloves for men, ties.
Gloves for men!
Yeah. Like gloves for, my horse and carriage. I don't know. His father got Merrick a merchant's license so he could sell stuff on the street. This is after he couldn't roll cigars anymore.
Okay.
So his father would send him out to sell goods on the street and sell his father's wares from his haberdashery. After a while, he couldn't sell anything basically because people couldn't understand him because his mouth was
fused a bit.
Kind of deformed, and so he couldn't enunciate, and so his speech was not good.
Well, the other unfortunate thing about that is like, okay, if your role is salesman, you are supposed to bring people up and make them comfortable about what they're about to buy. And that's kind of impossible for this guy, at least on a first impression basis, because probably people are like, I don't know what's going on with you.
Right. And I'm sure his confidence isn't great.
No, like it's like he's been beat up, has been taken out of school. His foster mom is shitty. His dad's shitty. Like, no one's cool to him in his life. So like,
his speech is super impaired. And people are either frightened of him or they're not able to understand him. So he's just like not able to sell anything.
Yeah, like even the people who aren't assholes are like, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're trying to get at, you know?
Yeah, and so soon he started to wear a hood, like a mask.
Yeah.
And you may have seen that photo.
Yeah, but it looks almost like a bed sheet or like a pillowcase.
Yeah,
right?
it's like a hood, basically, with a little rectangle for his eyes so that he can peek out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like a tiny, tiny pillowcase for his head.
Yeah.
So he would wear that, and then he would wear like a cape and sometimes cover his hand so that people wouldn't stare at him, but then they would stare at him because he has a hood on,
Yeah. They might. Well, I mean, I wonder. They probably would stare at him like a little less long because you'd be just like, "Why is that guy all wrapped up?"
Yeah, there's like, "Oh, all right. Well, maybe he's sick or something."
Yeah, maybe he hates the sun. I get that.
Yeah, I get it too.
If I could cover myself from the sun every time I go outside, I would.
Me too, man. I hate it.
I mean, I've thought seriously about getting an umbrella just for the sun, a sunbrella, as I like to call it.
A ton of cute old ladies in my neighborhood. They do it all the time.
They do.
And I'm like, you are smart.
I see them and I'm like, that is a good idea. Although one time I did see this. It wasn't an old woman. It was a very young woman who had one of those plastic ones that are very like dome shaped, which are cute, but for the sun doesn't do shit.
No, she's just cooking like a little ant in the magnifying glass.
I remember I saw that. I was like, cute umbrella, bad
idea.
Yeah. But in general, the sunbrella thing, I've thought about it quite a bit.
Do it.
Here's the thing. I'm too self-conscious for fashion. And I would worry that people will be like, why does that idiot have an umbrella? Even though some people might be like, that's a good idea. I'm scared of the negative.
And they'll be like, see me in 20 years. I'll still look like this. Thank you. So Merrick's trying to sell his wares on the street. No one wants to buy them because they're scared of him, unfortunately. So one day he comes home empty-handed, not able to sell anything. And his father beats him super severely for not earning enough money.
Yeah. Great dad.
Merrick leaves to go live with his uncle, Charles Merrick.
Hopefully this guy's not a huge asshole.
A kinder man. He's like a local barber. He stays there, seeks refuge for a little bit, and he tries to continue to sell wares on the street. But people are still too frightened, and this is causing too much issue. He's not able to sell anything.
I mean, it's not the right job for him.
He has no other choice. He feels like he's forced to become a resident at the Leicester Union Workhouse at age 17.
What is a union workhouse?
Basically, it's like a poorhouse for people. So you like work there and then you get to stay there.
Oh, I see. So your payment is a place to sleep.
Right. So 1879, Merrick moves into and begins to work in a brutal workhouse.
Yikes.
Yeah. So little food, poor medical facilities, especially for a person of his, needs.
No one knows how to help him.
There's this woman, Joanne Vigor Mungovan is, I think, how you say her last name, but she's a biographer of his. She wrote a book on him. And so she describes the workhouse as, quote, one of the jobs the workhouse people used to do was called bone crushing.
I can't imagine this will be bad.
Yeah, which is where they'd crush bone for fertilizer.
What?
because the food was so bad, she says, it wasn't unknown for the workers and inmates to eat the putrid remains off of the flesh of those dead bones.
Whoa. Whoa.
So that's how bad it could get.
That's fucked up. When you're so hungry, you are willing to eat old meat off a bone, like
A person, a human bone, or whatever.
it was a human bone?
Well, some of them sound like.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No wonder David Lynch wanted to direct this.
I know. Well, maybe it's animal bones. Like I just immediately like it's humans. Maybe it's animals.
Yeah, they're just like they're all holding a skull and eating bits off.
Yeah,
of
maybe it's animals. That's probably true. Even still, whatever.
But like, also like, does bone dust make good fertilizer? It seems like a lot of effort. It's like when they could just use the shit of a big animal,
right? Or themselves.
Yeah, just poop is good fertilizer,
right? Yeah. So that's how she was just like, they're eating meat off bones. old bones with old meat.
It's pretty bad though. It's pretty bad. I mean, any kind of like derelict image you had in your head of like a weird, scary old factory where he has to do gross work, like you're right.
Yeah, this is why David Lynch is like, this is mine.
It's like, I love it. It's beautiful.
This sounds like a fairy tale I'd love to tell.
I did a little, after doing all that David Lynch stuff, we made a little David Lynch sketch. And
amazing.
We filmed it the other day. And to get in, like, remind myself of his voice, I was listening to an interview of his. And he was talking about how, like, this is supposed to sound like, ooh, look, he could look at things a different way. And I'm like, I'm so frustrated with David Lynch. But he was like, you know, that if you see a sore, it's actually quite beautiful if you don't know what it is.
Gross.
And I'm like, no, it's not. And it's like, so like, that's an idea that like he's right as a concept, but when you're fucking talking about a sore, and he was talking about, it's like, yeah, like, you know, like pus and stuff. And it's like, shut up,
man.
Go away. He's a man who just makes vision boards. That's all of his movies are, just vision board, scene after scene of vision board. And I gotta say, I mean, this is all this pent up David Lynch frustration. The reason he's so frustrating is because the images he makes are really, really good. And then for me, he doesn't deliver on the like story element. It's just like, it's just like you're just witnessing something that is at like in a vacuum. This one scene or this image is very compelling. Don't get me wrong. Very good at that. But the fact that it doesn't always connect in any way to the story you're trying to tell, and it's just like adjacent and it's never explained, frustrates the living hell out of me.
It's true. I mean, in the opening of The Elephant Man, the movie that he directs, there's a scene that's like kind of like a starry night, and then it shows what you assume to be his mother. You kind of find out later that it's her. But it's just like a woman screaming on the ground, and then like an elephant just like, you know, raising its trunk up, and it's like crazy eyes, and then her screaming, and it looks like this elephant's like ravaging her over and over again. But you have no context. You don't know what it's pointing to, so you're just like,
oh Jesus Christ!
Is that elephant? What's he doing to her? Like you can't tell. Like
yeah, if it's just like close up.
She's like moving back and forth, you know, and screaming, and then it goes to the elephant, and then it goes to her, and then it goes to the elephant, and then it goes to her, like multiple times, and you're like, what are you insinuating? What is happening?
Like, yeah, stop doing this. No one needed this image in their head, dude.
So that's the start of the movie. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is Lynch, baby.
Oh, did you think this movie wasn't going to be traumatic?
Yeah. It's pretty chill.
He's great at being gross.
Yeah,
he's really good at it.
He takes you there. So this workhouse, Merrick obviously found this life to be intolerable because gross.
Yeah, because it is.
Yeah. But he has no other way to support himself, so he has to stay.
Oof. Wait, so he can't stay with his unk? I thought his unc was the nice barber. He
was nice, but he can't stay there long term. So,
ugh, not that nice.
Yeah, I guess not that nice because I don't think he could afford him.
It probably is a lot to like, you know, it's a shitty thing because like obviously this guy just needs someone to help him. Like he just like it's not his fault. He just like needs help, but it probably also is like a huge undertaking to help this guy.
Right. I think that maybe they thought he wasn't as smart as he was or whatever. So there's like, you can go to this home, you know, like these people will take care of you, you know, or whatever.
I do also wonder like if they just actually don't know how shitty it is.
Yeah, that could be.
They might just be like, on paper, this works because you'll do whatever you can. It's basically like having a
Yeah,
job.
they've not had a tour of the place, so they don't know.
Yeah. They're just like, I heard of this spot. It's fine. You crunch bones. You get a bed. Go there. You'll make friends.
Yeah, it's like a Motel 6. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like, it's a little seedy, but like, hey, it's got character.
Yeah, it's seedy, but it works. It's fine.
Yeah.
The workhouse system was a notorious institution for the impoverished and destitute, and it was like a cruel place.
Yep.
According to Steve Moore, who managed Merrick's skeleton.
What a weird job description. Skeleton manager.
Yeah, I know. It's like, don't look at it. I've got it. I manage it.
Yeah. I manage this one skelly.
But the teenager was desperate to escape this workhouse. And due to his facial deformities, he struggled to eat.
I'm sure.
And he had nobody to help him.
Oh boy. God, he just can't take a break. It's like every single thing that can make your life hard. It's like, oh, you can't do any kind of manual labor? Check. Your body hurts all the time? Check. You need help eating? Check. It's just like, goddamn.
He can't chew the meat off those bones. Like,
he can't. He can't even chew that gross meat.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he can, but not easy. You can't sneak it, that's for sure.
No, you can't.
And the quality of food was garbage. And he has difficult eating this like trash food. He's probably just like, fuck, man, this sucks.
Can you imagine that if you have to put so much effort into eating? Like, I can imagine that kind of like putrid food, you just got to shovel it in fast because you're just like in desperation mode.
It's just fuel, right?
He has to slow roll eating this garbage. Like, he has to taste every morsel. He can't just like chow down and just like do it. You know, like those Bear Grylls types who have like, I'm stuck in the desert. I have to eat 100 bugs to live. It's like, this guy's got to savor every bug bite, you know? Like,
yeah. Because his mouth, I mean, and you'll see the pictures, it's kind of like lopsided. And I don't know if it closes all the way.
And I could imagine if he maybe doesn't have 100% control over it, especially if this is a neurological disease, you know? Like,
yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. And I'm not sure what the inside of his mouth is like. You know what I mean? Like if that has tumors and stuff too.
Yeah. And his head might just be so fucking like heavy. Like when you see what his skull looks like, you can only imagine that just like the excess weight of that and the like maybe rigidity of his like condition. Like it's amazing he got around on his own ever.
And it sucks too. Like as I mentioned, like at first meeting, people would assume that he's mentally handicapped, which is far from true. Like he managed to teach himself to read and write,
which honestly is impressive, even if you didn't have a deformity.
Right, and he wasn't able to speak well, but simply because of his, facial.
Yes, it was physical. It was not
right. Exactly
mental.
Right. He would wear a cape and a veil, like a mask with a rectangle opening, and he would wear that in public, but he was often still harassed when he traveled around.
Of course, because people are the worst.
So, like, it would still draw onlookers. This poor man.
I mean, like, unfortunately, and not to be mean, but, like, his outfit, he definitely does look like the Phantom of the Opera bit.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
And, of course, the Phantom of the Opera, well, I haven't seen it from what I understand. It's all about a man who was pushed away because he looks like this and people are terrible to him. And so
yeah.
Why wouldn't that actually be what happened? Because people are terrible.
And he also suffered from heart problems, difficulty walking, as I mentioned. He uses a cane.
God damn, man. It's just thing after thing.
You mentioned how heavy his head is.
Yeah.
He had to sleep sitting up so he wouldn't suffocate himself.
What?
Yeah, like sitting up, knees like kind of pulled up against his chest. And then he would lean his head against his knees. And that's how he would sleep. Because if he laid back, he would crush his windpipe, basically. Yeah. Like it would block his airway.
Whoa. Like his head was so heavy that it could like fall back, like if it rolled off the bed or something and it would like...
Right. Like he couldn't breathe if he lays flat, he couldn't breathe.
Whoa. Oh my God. This poor son of a bitch.
So he has to sleep sitting up with his knees.
Sitting up in the fetal position.
Poor fucking guy.
Man, I have a hard enough time sleeping in the regular position, like just flat on my back or on my sides. Sleeping is so annoying and weird. Like I used to be a big side sleeper. And now if I try to sleep on my side, my arm will fall asleep that like the pressure is on. About 80% of the time I'm in bed, I have to sleep Dracula style, which is flat on my back with like my arms across my chest and in like an X fashion.
Interesting.
And I am a relatively healthy man.
Sure.
And sleeping is that hard for me I don't have any large genetic issues that I have to deal with. This poor son of a bitch can only sleep in one position that is not laying down, that is in the fetal position with his head against his knees. Like, I know humans can get used to damn near anything, but fuck. Can you imagine trying to figure that out too?
That sucks, right?
What position can I sleep in where I don't suffocate to death?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, I'm going to make it through tonight. Cool. Fuck,
Yeah,
man.
sweet. I'm going to have some dreams about breathing regularly. Like, ugh.
So in Lynch's film, Merrick constantly stares at this drawing of somebody sleeping flat. And he's like, man, what's that like? Like, he's just like, oh, it's sad.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah.
Doctors still aren't positive what his medical condition was since there's no other documented cases this severe. But the N1F1 is super hereditary, and it's a 50-50 chance to pass on the gene.
It's funny that it's called the N1F1 because I keep thinking it's like a jet plane whenever you say that.
It sounds cool, doesn't it? It's not.
Yeah. It's like, I bet that thing is sleek. And you're like, oh, wait, it's a horrible genetic disease. Never mind.
So it's like a 50-50 chance to pass the gene on. And then, then it's like a crapshoot of what it does to your body. So
wait, how much was the percent to pass it on?
So 50%.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, no shit, right? And then something, whatever, however your body responds to it.
Yeah, whatever else you get connected to it. Or whatever else you might have had. It's like you have this, also you're allergic to bees. It's like fucking...
Great. We'll never know if I get stung because I have lumps everywhere.
It's going to be hard for me to get away from bees now. Yeah. Oy vey. I just got to worry about another thing.
This one documentary that I was watching that was kind of chronicling N1F1 condition. This one man who lived in Columbus, Ohio, in the documentary had neurofibromatosis. And he had some, bumps and patchy, lumpy skin, but they were following him at a doctor's appointment, basically. And a lot of his relatives had it. And then he was going to the doctors and he was just saying like how very painful it is and how it had progressed throughout his life from a child to now. But he was at the doctor's and he was in a wheelchair and he was like, I can't walk now because there's a huge cluster of these tumors on my spine. And the doctors cannot figure out which one is pressing so hard on the nerves of his spine that's causing him to not walk. So they can't operate because there's a bunch of them. So they're just like, we don't know which one it is. So we're not going to go in there.
And they can't, I guess it's the kind of thing you don't want to fuck around unless you know exactly where the thing is.
Right. Because there's just like a handful of them all up and down his spine.
And what if you fucking messed up some other nerves as you're doing it or like.
Right. So they're all, but it's pressing. So now he can't walk. And he's just like, I can deal with this pain. It's super painful. I can deal with it, but I just want to be able to walk around. He's like his mid-30s, this man.
Yeah. To have his own agency. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was really fucking sad. And then his niece is in there. They cover her in another doctor's appointment and she's fine, but she, I think, has the gene. She does have the gene. And so she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And so the doctors are like, so there's a 50-50 chance you could pass this on. And she's like, cool. Like, good news.
That's really rough.
But yes, she had the gene. It was just like a ton of people in this family seemed to have this issue.
Jeez. It's literally a flip of a coin, and sometimes it comes up heads like 6 times, like. Yeah,
so it seems like certain families are just, it's like riddled throughout their family, this gene. And then if you get the gene, then it's like, who knows?
I imagine that regardless of what ailment you have, you want to have some semblance of a quote normal life. You want to have maybe a family or
right.
Whatever. And then you're faced with this huge thing of like, okay, I want a kid, but if I have one, I have a 50% chance of putting them through the thing that I had to deal with that sucks.
Right. But then she has it and she's fine,
Yeah. And so she knows it's possible. And so it's like, do you do it and you risk putting the kid through this really difficult thing? Or do you not have kids, try and stop your line so that this thing doesn't keep getting out in the world? It's like, it's a scary, thing to have to think about.
Yeah, it was gnarly. She was just like, okay, well,
yeah, it's like,
cool.
Fucking,
well,
I hope it comes up tails. Like, I don't know.
The guy that was interviewing her is like, oh, you're pregnant? She's like, yeah, I'm pregnant. He's like, oh, just so you know, bad news. She's like, cool.
Big yikes. Yeah.
Awesome. Good news.
It's like, oh, great. And so there's nothing I can do. Cool. Very good. Gonna live in stress until this baby's born, and then maybe its entire life afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. She was like, so I'm going to be really stressed out. Awesome. Like that was basically her vibe. Sweet.
6 months? Okay, I'm gonna be stressed for 6 months. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was basically her like, well, I'm trying to keep my stress down.
At that point, it's like, of course, as a doctor, you have to let the patient know, but it's almost like, would it just have been better to just like find out after?
Yeah, I mean, they have to ethically, I believe, but yeah.
Yeah, I think so, but it's like you can't control it, and then you're just living with stress.
Okay, so Merrick's at this workhouse. It's horrible. And there's no good medical care for him.
The doctors are chickens.
Yeah, they're actual chickens.
It's like you can go to our medical facility, and you're like, oh, you have a medical facility? Sure. Yeah, just paging Dr. Cluck, and he brings him in. He's just a chicken with that like shiny disc on their heads that doctors had in the past.
What does that do?
I actually found out that it reflects light. So the light bounces off that, and then they aim it into the cadaver or whatever they're working on. So it literally is like a headlamp.
Can't they just get a light?
I mean, you'd think.
Here's a headlamp from Home Depot. You want that instead? It's much better.
Yeah, they're what's Home Depot? I'm a chicken.
Yeah, cluck cluck.
Cluck cluck.
In 1884, as Merrick nears his 22nd birthday, he decides he's going to try to profit from his deformities and get the fuck out of there.
Why not, man? Just anything's probably better than what he was doing.
Yeah, so he's like, I'm going to escape this workhouse, and he sets his sight on becoming an attraction in a traveling freak show. He's just like, there's a freak show. I know what I look like. Let's try it.
Yeah, it's like, look, I get shit from everyone all the time. I might as well make money from it.
Right. And Joanne Vigor Mungovid, she says that I think Joseph knew that his appearance drew interest, which, of course, like, yes, he did.
Duh. Like, people have been telling him his whole fucking life.
So he realized that he could earn money, and a lot, in fact, in a better standard of living for sure if he went out and exhibited himself. So he contacted Sam Torr, the owner of the Leicester Music Hall called the Gaiety Palace of Varieties, which sounds like it was an oddities exhibition.
Yeah.
And they made a deal to secure Merrick a spot on the Human Oddities show that was being exhibited there. So shortly thereafter, Merrick soon found himself working for Tom Norman, exhibiting for him. And Tom Norman was known as the Silver King.
Ooh, good title. He's known for his silver suits and his silver teeth. He's got a pocket watch that he spins around.
Oh, man. He's British's version of PT, basically. Like, they would call him that. Like, they're like, you're the UK version of P.T. Barnum.
And he's like, no, I'm the Silver Man. Call me my Silver Man title. It's way cooler.
Yeah.
They're like, whatever, UK PT.
Yeah, they're like, whatever. But he sounded like he was kind of like, a deal maker, kind of smarmy.
As a quick thing, I really need to pee again. I foresaw this in my early pee.
Do it.
Get it.
Pause it. Pee it.
So quick pause. Right back. Come back to Silverman.
Silverman.
Back to the Silverman.
Okay. Yes. Merrick hops on the show working for Tom Norman, the Silver King. And there's a lot of debate. Joanne Vigor Mungovan says there's a lot of debate about whether Norman was using or abusing Merrick. Merrick made a lot of money starring in the shows, but Norman made more.
Of course.
How it goes. Whatever the truth, Merrick never experienced freedom, she says.
No. He can't even catch a break in the circus?
At least, yeah, during that time. So Merrick was soon exhibited as the Elephant Man, half elephant, to great success in Leicester and Nottingham. It's interesting. So the posters, I believe, and maybe this is just from the film, but I feel like I've seen these other places where it's just like a man in a suit.
Yeah.
The postings, it's like a man in a suit and then like an elephant head, like with an elongated trunk. So they're just like, oh, this is going to be an elephant headed person. And then you get in there and you're like, oh, this is totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very different.
Yeah. I was expecting an elephant businessman, and I got a man with an unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah, exactly right. Which is kind of like, you should really think about your inflating advertising.
Yeah, I mean, that was their version of clickbait. You know what I mean?
And like the worst kind, man. During the mid-late 1800s, freak shows were very popular in London. Apparently, the idea of gawking at people was not at all passé.
No, they're like, gawk.
Yeah, the disabled, the fat, the tall, Siamese twins, quote unquote, all acceptable to stare at. But nobody had a person on stage quite as incredible as the Elephant Man.
He is very unique as far as cases go.
And though he was promoted as being half man, half elephant, the only similarity to an elephant was the skin protruding from his face, I guess like a trunk. But again, like the posters would show a man's body and an elephant face to pique curiosity.
Yeah, which is just flatly not what you're going to get.
Yes. Like if a kid looked at it, they'd be like, whoa, okay. And then scarred for always.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, I'm very scared now.
On stage, Merrick displayed his increasingly misshapen body. He'd become a huge draw, but his health was volatile and slowly declining.
Yeah. And I also wonder what he did when people, because like obviously seeing him is a very unique sight, sure. Does he just sit there?
Yeah, because a lot of these smaller freak shows, quote unquote, that aren't connected to a circus per se, are very like walk through, look at these people. Very blatant, like we're looking at you. It's just fucked up.
Yeah. There's no semblance of like, you're doing an act that we're going to watch. It's just like, almost like a zoo, basically.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, which is sad. That November, as the show moves to exhibit in London, and Merrick is working now for the illustrious Tom Norman, the Silver King, he was sitting much better than his life in the workhouse, for sure.
I mean, at least that's something.
Yeah, I mean, he was getting paid and he wasn't eating dead meat bones,
Yeah.
you know. Norman has his show for a few weeks in London, exhibiting right across the street from the Royal London Hospital, in a very like busy street in London as well.
Which famously does not employ chickens.
Thank God. They can't do surgery with those little claws. So being conveniently across the way from the Royal London Hospital, Merrick was frequently visited by medical students and doctors interested in his condition. He eventually was invited by a surgeon named Frederick Treves to visit the hospital to be examined in front of the Pathology Society. And I think Treves kind of gave him a veiled promise that like, maybe we can treat you also. Let me show you off to people.
Mm-hmm. Which like, of course, this guy's going to take any opportunity because no one's been able to fucking help him at all.
Right. And I think these doctors would go across the way and be like, oh, let's look at these people. Maybe they have some medical oddities, you know, deformities and to study or whatever. And so he was there and he was like, oh shit, I've never seen this before at all. Come over to our place and we're going to look at you. Yeah. And Merrick wanted any medical help at this point. He's had none. And Royal London Hospital is like this esteemed hospital.
I mean, of course.
The result of Treves' examination showed that by that point, Merrick's deformities had become quite extreme. His head measured 36 inches in circumference.
I wonder how many inches my head is right now, just for...
Let's measure it. Measure that shit. Let's see.
What do we got?
All the way around.
All the way around? That's going to be hard.
Circumference.
Let me see if I have... yeah, I got the tape measuring one. But of course, this is the wrong edge of it, so I have to unravel the whole thing.
Sorry, Mark.
Oy vey, you guys. Okay, let's see what my head is.
So Mark's head measures.
It's like right there.
24, 23.
And I have a pretty big noggin.
Yeah, he's smart. He's got a nice brain in there.
Yeah, that's what that means.
Yeah. Sure.
It's not just that hats don't fit.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah. So
what was
added
his?
12 inches on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother foot.
Yeah. His right hand was 12 inches at the wrist.
Okay, well, let's see what mine is at the wrist for I am the control study.
Yeah.
Mine's like 7, 8 at the wrist. His is 12.
Bigger.
Yeah.
His body was covered with tumors. His legs and hips were so deformed that he had to walk with a cane, and he also suffered from slight heart problems, which we covered. But other than that, he, was in good health. Other than all those things.
Yeah. Yeah, everything else.
Pretty fine.
Pretty good. He never got the flu.
God. Could you imagine? Poor guy.
Got a good immune system.
Nah, after being in the workhouse with all those doctor chickens.
Yeah, with all that, doctor chickens. And it's like, I think I have a sore throat.
Like, you're cured.
You're cured. Yeah. They just squawk at you and then they give you a piece of paper that says you're cured.
They pass it with their little claw. You're cured.
Yeah, you're cured. And then you look at them like, how did you even write this? And they give you that like look that chickens have.
Chicken scratch. Yeah. Prescription. That's where that comes from.
And then their eyes are just the most like nothing is going on. Like
Blank.
just not like, with like apes and stuff and like even dogs and cats, you can see that there's like a thought process. But with chickens, it's like zero. Nothing is happening inside.
Indifference. Yeah. Always.
Mm-hmm. It's just like, It's just like any stimulus in any direction is where my attention goes. Yeah.
Only direction, and that's it. Just directional.
I know direction, and I know if it's nighttime or not.
Such a simple life.
To be a chicken.
So Treves presented Merrick to the Pathological Society of London in December of that year and asked Merrick to visit the hospital for further examination, but Merrick refused, later recalling that the experience made him feel like, quote, an animal in a cattle market, end quote.
Yeah, there's probably way more poking and prodding than he was comfortable with.
Yeah. And those full body images are taken from that examination.
Oh, okay.
So someone illustrated it and also took photos. So if you note those images from the exam, he's standing naked and he looks very like a specimen on display for the whole crowd of doctors.
And I'm sure doctors loved it, but it's like he's still a dude.
Yeah, they're like having him turn 3/4 and then turn again. And he's
it's awkward enough to have your pants off in the doctor's office when there isn't a physical deformity. I can only imagine being so like, how is he not super self-conscious about it when his entire life he is beat up and like, pointed out as this like different thing, and then he's got to be on visual display nude? Like that's a lot.
The whole pathological society, there's probably like 50 doctors that are like, yes, no.
At least the chickens couldn't tell anyone in the other place, but these people can say stuff and judge.
And they're probably just like, interesting. And he's just like, so can you do anything? And they're like, no, but we do see you.
But you do have a slightly smaller than average penis. And he's like, no one needs to know. Also, it's cold. That's not what it is.
That was interesting. In the film, and I'm not sure if this was noted in Treves' medical notes because I didn't peruse all of them, because Treves he did medical reports on him. But in the film, they're like, and his genitals are fine. I'm like,
I do like that they're like, guys, his dick and balls are normal.
Yeah, thank God.
Which, every man, that's their biggest fear, that something would go wrong to their dick and balls.
Truly.
So I'm glad that at the very least, he didn't have to worry about that.
I have a feeling that was definitely a check mark for them, and they're like, phew.
I'm sure all the doctors are like, dick and balls, normal. Okay, great. So
thank God.
Like, good for him, right? And he's just like, can you help me? Can you stop talking about my dick and balls?
Yeah, like, I want to eat food, like, fuck.
Yeah, I would like to chew and walk on my own. What do you got for me?
And also not get hit when I'm walking down the street, normal shit.
It's like, well, at least you can have regular sex. It's like, that's so far from what I'm concerned about, dude.
Yeah, like, I want to talk to somebody first.
Yeah, I would like to talk. I would like to go on a date and eat food with a person.
Yeah, like, I can't have sex lying down.
No, yeah, I'll suffocate if I have sex.
This leg doesn't work also, so I'm gonna have to have sex on
Yeah,
one
it
leg.
doesn't matter that my dick and balls are fine. Like, there's so many other things to worry about.
Like, we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
No, we're not there yet. If we can solve a couple of other problems, then I'll be thankful about this. But for now.
Yeah, so Treves is like, come back whenever you want. We can do this again. And he's like, I'm fine. This was enough for me.
I thought because you guys were a big deal doctor office, I would get anything done. But nope.
So Merrick doesn't take Treves up on his offer, but Treves says, take my card and contact me if you ever change your mind or if you ever want to come back.
People love giving other people their card.
Apparently that was a thing in the 1870s or 1880s rather.
That was like the biggest, like, I have a job. Here's my card.
Feel the cardstock. I'm rich. I'm a doctor.
I have 1 million of these at home.
So Merrick takes the card, but he's disillusioned with the lack of promise or that they did nothing.
Yeah. They just had him do a slow spin.
It's interesting. So Treves also introduced and documents Merrick as John, not Joseph, because he heard him when he said his name. He just heard John, not Joseph.
Oh, because he couldn't say the whole thing.
Because he couldn't enunciate. Yeah. So in a lot of his documents, it says John Merrick, not Joseph Merrick. So, and in the movie, it says John Merrick. And so a lot of people, when they quote Elephant Man, they'll be like, John Merrick. And I'm like, that's wrong.
That's not his name.
So Merrick returns to earning wage at the freak show.
Mm-hmm.
But the police soon closed the show because they deemed the freak show indecent.
What?
Most likely because in this freak show, there was a woman that would bite the head off bats. Things like that happened in this freak show.
Oh, okay. They're like, the devil's here. This is devil shit. we can't have the kids. We can't have the kids learning from
Yeah,
this.
she would like bite it off and let the blood drip down. Stuff like that.
I mean, super hot, but we can't have kids seeing it.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that didn't help.
Yeah.
So by 1885, with this distaste for freak shows, it had clearly developed in Britain, and Merrick and his managers had decided to move the show. So they tried to exhibit in Belgium. The shows met with mediocre success, however, and Merrick's managers, they rob him of all his savings. Because it doesn't do well. They're like, we didn't make enough money, so they take his money and they leave him in Europe.
Of course. Great.
They ditch him in Europe and they're just like, bye.
Don't you just love how people keep being great? They just consistently are good throughout time.
Yeah, there's like, well, we can't exhibit maybe anywhere, but we're going to take your money.
Maybe you poor thing, can't actually make us money the way we thought we could objectify you. So to punish you for it not working out the way we wanted it, let's take the money that we gave you for the job that you did for us.
Yeah, for people staring at you. God. Fortunately, he is able to find safe passage on a ship back to England.
Thank God.
I don't know how, but like probably somebody probably was like, we'll hook you up. My God.
Good for fucking him. What, like, he probably by that point did have a good beat on like who's like legit or not, you know, like who's
kind.
Yeah, exactly. Like he probably has a good radar for people trying to fuck with him.
Yeah. So he heads back to England on his ship in June of 1886. It's not quite documented how, but he does arrive back in London at the Liverpool Street Station.
I like to imagine he surfed there.
Yeah. He's like, but I can fucking kill it on the waves, bro. Like I shred.
Yeah. I speak the language of the sea.
Right? So he's penniless at the Liverpool Street Station. He has nowhere to go, but he's back. And to add insult to injury, he's met with an angry mob at the train station who chase him down the street because they're just like, what are you? You look weird. What's this head? You have a hood on. What are you doing? These people are chasing him down the street.
Yeah. Are you? Yeah. Oh my God. People suck.
They really
much.
do. So the police are like, oh, what's this mob? Who are they chasing?
And then they see him and then they join the mob, I bet. Yeah.
No, well, they break it up, actually.
Oh, well, that's good. That's a first.
The police take notice and they break up the mob and they take Merrick into custody. Merrick's trying to communicate to the police in general, but he's probably flustered and emotional because he was being chased by people.
Yeah, because he just like chased. Yeah, sure.
And the police rifle through his belongings and they find Frederick Treves' card. He still has it after 2 years.
Okay.
Thank God.
That was a doctor, right?
Yes, that's the doctor.
Yeah.
And the police take him to the Royal London Hospital because there's like, we don't know where else to take you, but you got to go somewhere because you're going to get murdered.
Yeah. You're not safe just walking around.
So he goes to the Royal London Hospital and Treves is super pumped. He's relieved to see Merrick. He's like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Didn't think I'd see you again.
So Treves examines Merrick at the hospital. He finds that his condition has severely deteriorated in the 2 years.
So in only 2 years. Wow.
However, the hospital is considered incapable of caring for incurables such as him because his conditions just kind of progress and they don't know what to do for it.
And they can't like waste a bed on him when they can't do anything.
Right. And so it seemed that Merrick would be forced to fend for himself yet again.
This guy.
The chairman of the Royal London Hospital, Car Grom,
like C-A-R, like beep beep.
C-A-R-R.
That's not much better.
Yeah, I know.
Beep
R's.
beep Grom.
Yeah, beep beep Grom.
That's like if an orc was trying to pretend to be a human and was like, "What's your name?" He's like,
Vehicle.
Car Grom.
Right? Words.
That's a real word. Welcome to Louisiana.
So the chairman of the hospital, Car Grom, he basically he was the one that was like, we can't care for him. Grom is like, he can't stay here. He's incurable. And Treves like, oh, all right, but that sucks. So Grom's like, all right, well, we'll try to find another hospital for him. So Grom publishes a letter in the Times describing Merrick's case and asking for help, reaching out to another hospital or facility, just being like, can you guys house this guy? Can someone do something?
I mean, that's at least kind of nice.
Right, yeah. They're still doctors. They still have some heart, they want to help people.
Hopefully.
So Grom's letter results in a sympathetic public outpouring and enough financial donations, actually, to provide Merrick with a home for the rest of his life.
They got to go fund me.
Yeah, like a bunch of people are like, oh, this is sad. And they start sending money to the hospital.
Oh, that's great. See, this is what the story needed, because so many times in the story, it's just an example of people being horrible throughout the ages. It is very nice to know that, like, while that does exist, there are also people who are like, that really sucks what this guy's to deal with. Let me help in what little way I can.
And I think it helped that, like, the hospital's like, we need help. And they're like, well, you guys are legit. All right, we'll help you.
Yeah.
In 1887, they took the money that all the people donated and they converted several rooms in the Royal London Hospital into living quarters for him. He was able to just stay there for the rest of his life.
So they kind of made him like a dormitory almost.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty good. And it's at the facility. So if he does have any kind of like pressing issue, he can very quickly get it handled.
Merrick's notoriety also resulted in his being aided by members of the British upper class, most notably the actress Madge Kendall and Alexandra, the Princess of Wales. So he was getting like attention from these, fancies.
Yeah.
Future life depictions of Merrick, like in the movie, show that he and this actress, Madge Kendall, interact in person and have kind of like a deep rapport. Is played by Anne Bancroft. But in real life, it's believed that this never was the case. But they have like a very sweet relationship in the film, which is nice. However, the actress's husband in real life did visit Merrick. And Kendall herself in real life helped raise money for Merrick's care and sent him several gifts.
Okay. So they might not have had like an interpersonal relationship, but they definitely did like help him.
Yeah, and her husband did visit him and she sent him stuff.
Okay.
So one gift she did send him is a cardboard model cathedral-style church, which Merrick assembles beautifully. And this is depicted in the Lynch film as well, though it does not show Kendall giving him the model kit in the movie. And it also shows him building this cathedral from scratch in the movie.
Yeah. Is it like a 3D puzzle? Like what are we talking?
So it's actually like
a model that he has to
so they sold these kits, basically. They're like model kits. And then you build them out of like this is the steeple, this is the doors.
Okay.
It's like a dollhouse kit.
It's also impressive that he could do like model building, because I mean, he like one hand is kind of useless in this regard, so he's only has the one. So
that's so interesting that you say that. When I was looking up this model, paper model builders write on, I looked at this forum. They're really nerded out.
Nice.
Got real into it.
Sure, a very specific community.
Right. Very much. They knew exactly what model this was. It was like a German model.
Of course.
Of the cathedral.
You don't get that past them.
Fuck. That was issued like in 1880. So it was like time appropriate. They was like, this was it. And I'll post a photo of it for all you paper model heads out there.
We know you are. We know you're out there.
But they wrote that like making a model of this kind with one hand would be super hard.
Yeah, I bet.
So the fact that he did that, it was super impressive.
Sure.
However, it's noted that some of the nurses' staff did help him assemble it. Still
impressive.
Still super impressive.
I mean, just to put glue on a piece.
Yeah, 100%.
Like doing that with two hands is doing it with one hand is like, there's no way like you can. I don't know. It's impressive that he could do that at all.
Yeah. And it's exhibited, the fully built cathedral is exhibited at the Royal London Hospital, along with some other of his like artifacts of his.
It's also a nice thing that he got to have this kind of like hobby, because I can imagine that a lot of time when he is by himself, it's like, how many things can he actually do? And like, there is a therapeutic nature in the same way as like, assembling something or a puzzle or like painting kind of something. Where it's like, it's kind of like a calm thing that like, there's a bit of expression. There's a bit of like humans love to do things that takes like just enough effort. You know what I mean? Like hobbies where it's like, you can show that there's a skill to it, but it's not so much that it's like stressful. And so this does sound like a good thing for him, essentially.
Right. That he can focus on.
A thing that he can do and maybe de-stress and like zone out for a little bit, because goddamn if this guy doesn't have to deal with a lot of bullshit.
Yeah, and like, but now he is like a safe haven, which is great.
Yeah.
So Merrick was able to visit the theater on at least one occasion. It's suggested in the Lynch film that this invitation is extended by that actress Madge Kendall, though that I can't confirm that, but it's nice to think that.
Yeah.
But he does get to actually go, which is a big deal.
That's nice.
I like that he is in his later years, he actually, he endures all this bullshit and then he gets to like relax a little bit.
He kind of gets a little bit of something, which is nice.
Yeah, he's able to make trips to the countryside several times over the next few years while living at the Royal London Hospital. And Treves would kind of like plan those with and for him. When he was at home, he would spend time conversing with Treves.
Yeah.
One of the few people that could understand him when he would speak. He was reported to be very kind and very sensitive. He was a lover of the arts. He enjoyed writing prose and poetry. He also enjoyed reading Shakespeare, and he enjoyed reading in general, Jane Austen. He was, he enjoyed the arts in general.
It's like a regular dude with interests.
Yeah, like a dude. It is argued by some circus historians, like historian Vanessa Toulmin, who I quoted when we were discussing Miss Lala. She works at the Sheffield University. She says that Treves can be considered just as much a, quote, monster maker as Tom Norman or Sam Tor, the people that were working the Human Oddities show, by putting people on display as he did with Merrick. Like, she's comparing Tom Norman and Treves, meaning like he put him on display just as much as those other men could have. And
you mean those, like, saying the Doctor did it just as much as the Oddity guys?
Exactly right. Like, and also just depicting people with so-called oddities as like helpless captives, like animals with no choices, when in fact she says that they were able to make a great living for themselves usually, and use their like condition or oddity as it was perceived to make a better living for themselves.
I mean, that's true of a lot of people we know of in the circus, but this guy, it seems like that wasn't the case for him.
Right.
Or like he was, and then the people he worked for fucked him over.
Yeah. Toulmin says that sideshow workers were often the higher or highest paid on the show at times. I'm not sure. And again, like I was like, I'm not sure how true that is for Merrick.
Well, yeah.
It seems like he was on the show. Yes, and he did make money. Yes, but he was not treated very well.
Yeah, seriously. And then the money they did make, they stole. So
yeah. But that said, Treves seemed to allow the elite to visit Merrick and making donations for a comfortable living. This could be argued it's the same thing, though it's veiled in a much more humane exchange.
And at the very least, he is actually getting something.
Yeah, like he would invite people and be like, you want to hang out with him? You guys can have tea. You can see him. You have to give us money.
Yeah, I mean...
But you're not being an asshole, I guess.
That's one of those things where it's like, yes, the reason for it is probably not the best, not altruistic, but... the result of it, which doesn't, it doesn't like make the act of what the Doctor's doing like necessarily a good thing, but at the very least this guy is getting some benefit from it, whereas in the other aspects of his life he was kind of just flatly getting screwed. I mean, at least now he's got a place to live, and honestly, if people have a conversation with him, they might be like, oh, he's just a dude trapped in this unfortunate circumstance, like, and then they're probably more willing to help him.
Right. And I think that's what Treves was hoping for. Yeah.
Same.
I mean, at least I like to think that's what Treves and hopefully and most likely Merrick was like, I want people to know I'm a human person. Yeah, exactly.
Because if you just look at him, your dumb animal brain is like, oh, different. I don't understand. I'm on like alert. But then you talk to him, you're like, oh, you're just a man.
Yeah.
You are just a man with likes and interests and pain and all these things that any person has. So.
And I think that would happen regardless if these people had the intent to stare at him, these elite people, they would walk out of the door and be like, oh, I'm an idiot for even thinking that.
Yeah. He is just a dude. It sucks that he has to deal with all this.
Yeah. And they leave with their tail between their legs because there's like, I'm so stupid. And hopefully have a life lesson, and be better for it.
Hopefully.
They're all dead now, but that's fine.
Yeah, but maybe they did. We can hope that they had a epiphany of sorts.
Despite Merrick's newfound support structure, his condition continued to worsen during his time at the London hospital, but he did enjoy his safety and independence.
So what age is he roughly at this point?
So it's 1889, so he's about 27. So he was able to enjoy safety and independence and his final days to discover the arts and literature and experience nature, travel to the countryside, as I said, and had tea with his close friends within the hospital, some of the nurses' staff. He got close with, adventures with Frederick Treves when he had time, read poetry, and like I said, enjoy Shakespeare, Jane Austen. He really liked the Bible.
That was a very popular book. Still is. Bestseller.
It's got a lot of stories that are very exciting.
It does have a lot of stories.
On April 11th, 1890, Merrick was discovered dead, lying on his back on his bed.
He's not supposed to do that.
Right. So he had to sleep sitting up, as we discussed, with his head leaning up against his knees. So when they found him, he was lying totally flat. So often people suspect
maybe he did it on
intentionally
purpose.
Went to sleep like this.
Yeah.
To sleep like everyone else.
Yeah. A poetic end for him.
in the Lynch movie, it's very like he looks at the painting, the picture of someone sleeping, and he's like, I want to do it. And it's like he's killing himself, you know, like the movie's like, I'm going to kill myself so I can sleep this way.
I mean, if you're going to make a movie of this guy's life, that is the like compelling way to make it seem, whether it was true or not.
Yeah, it's very poetic and very like, I'm going to go out like a human because I want to sleep flat. Knowing that I'm gonna suffocate.
Yes, it's like I'm tired of dealing with all this bullshit. Like it's just gonna get worse. Let me do this thing that I've been wishing I could do.
Yeah, there's no way to know. Joanne Vigor McGovern, the biographer of his, says we can't be sure of the exact circumstance of his death. For example, he may have fallen over from a stroke or a blood clot. Also, like who's to know?
Honestly, any of that's super possible.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's initially thought that Merrick had died of asphyxiation due to his head crushing his windpipe. But more than a century later, it was instead surmised that he died from a crushed or severed spinal cord after his head fell back due to positioning on the bed. So I mean, that
sounds like it could still potentially be intentional, but like,
I mean, this is just my assumption watching like the physicality in this film, they would have him propped up with a bunch of pillows so he could stay forward. Yeah. I don't know if that's how he really slept, you know, but if you fall backwards accidentally and you cannot lift yourself up, that could be an issue for you, you know, so if that happened in some way.
Well, the only thing about that is like if I'm assuming that there is a hard wall behind him, whether it's a back of a chair or like a bedpost, and so like he would have to like slowly have been like gone like that, which seems pretty unlikely to me. I mean, I think like falling left or right is very possible, but if he was flat, I feel like going like this, unless he had the slipperiest bed sheets. I don't feel like that's very likely.
Just like, we're putting rubber sheets tonight. See what you do.
Rubber sheets was just like a little bit of water, like a slip and slide amount of water on here.
Or he's like, I'm going to do silk sheets tonight. And then fuck.
Yeah. We just have the slippiest silk sheets. He's like, oh, as he says, no, fuck, bad choice. Yep, but very delicate.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, like nobody could say if he like was trying to go out like that or it was just an accident. But regardless, damn.
Yeah.
Sad. But he was 27 years old, and I like to think he was the originator. Yes. Originator. I'm the originator of that word.
Yeah, the originator of the phrase originator. Yes.
But he died when he was 27, so he's like the first 27 club. You know?
Who else is in that? Is that Kurt Cobain? Is he in the 27 club?
Oh, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, all the cool people.
All the musicians. What if this guy secretly his poetry could have been...
You never know. He could have been like a dope beat poet. And he didn't know it.
He could have been. If only the chance. What if he was like the Mozart of guitar and he just he just couldn't play?
But he didn't have that finger, hands, mitt situation.
Yeah, that's the true tragedy.
So after Merrick's passing, Treves had plaster casts made of his body and preserved his skeleton, which has been kept on permanent display in the collection of the London Hospital. And apparently that dude manages it.
Yeah. Which is just wild. Skeleton manager. One of a kind.
A replica is on display at the hospital as well. So they have the real one.
What do you think that guy's daily job is? Like, just to make sure that the skeleton is standing up? Like, what do you do? Like, once it's behind that glass in the thing, what are you doing on a regular basis?
Well, he probably has like multiple. He's like, these are all my skeletons. I got to water them. I got to polish them. I have no idea. I'm making it up.
I was thinking he only managed one. Yeah, I got to polish them. I got to put a little bit of baby powder on them so they keep their whiteness. I don't want them getting off white. I got to bleach them every year.
Yeah, but not too white and not too blanched.
Too white, because it can't. Yeah, not too much. We want to have a realistic bone.
Yeah, because bone isn't white. If you see a bone paint color, it's bone.
But yeah, and here's the thing about bones: it's probably died from all the blood and guts that's on it all the time. So you got to bleach.
They do bleach it.
Yeah,
they do bleach his bones.
You got to wonder what color bones were before bleaching. It's probably gross color.
The grossest color.
Yeah, it's always like red, brown, like,
stained with blood. So whatever that is.
Sure. Why not?
Icky gross color? What color is that?
Icky gross.
That color. So the replica is on display as well. So they have the real one hidden, like not for the public to see, which is like the medical college part of the hospital. And then the public display one is the replica one, along with other articles of Merrick's.
So that's the plastic casted one.
Right. The replica one.
I see.
They have a plaster cast of his body.
So we have the real one under a glass vase, like the Beast does with the rose. And then we have that in a very high tower for no one to get to. And then we have the other one on display.
And they have a whole plaster cast of his face too.
See, this is as a Skelly manager, he's figuring it out.
When I told Nick that I was going to do this, he brought up the rumor, and I don't know if you've ever heard this, that Michael Jackson had his bones, the Elephant Man's skeleton.
I have heard that rumor, which is like such a weird one, because like, why would he want?
Right. Why would he want it?
I mean, I know Michael Jackson was very odd, but
so it had been reported that the pop singer Michael Jackson once tried to purchase Merrick's bones, but was refused by the hospital out of respect for Merrick. So he did ask for them.
Okay.
He's like, "Can I buy these?" And they're like, "No."
And they're like, they're up in a tower and we threw away the key. No one can have these bones.
Yeah. They're covered and only the Beast can break the curse.
Only the Beast is allowed to sing sad songs about them.
And that's not you.
And that's not you, buddy.
But how strange.
Yeah. What a weird thing to like.
They're probably like, how do you know about it? And what?
I mean, you do gotta wonder, just like at a certain point of making money, like you get a certain amount of stupid rich that you're just like, I want to buy something that no one else can have. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if there's just like a level of wealth where you're like, my money doesn't mean anything anymore because I can have anything.
Yeah.
But how do I use my money in a way that people who aren't like insanely wealthy, how can I have something that they can?
It's very strange.
It is. And like, what would you do with it? And it's like, it's gotta be so much money and you're just gonna like have it in a weird closet somewhere. Like, what would you ever, how does that help anyone?
Coats, skeleton.
Yeah, coats, crazy deformed skeleton. Coats.
Another skeleton that I tried to buy.
A mummy, yeah. It's like a mummy mermaid chimp. Like, what?
He's like, it's for my fucking haunted house this year. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah. It's gonna be so spooky spectacular.
So for years, the whereabouts of the remains of Merrick were unknown, like the flesh remains. Yes, his skeletal remains are at the Royal Hospital. The question was like, does he have a proper grave? Because for so long, people were like, did they bury him? Where is he buried?
In Michael Jackson's closet.
Yeah, next to all of his weird coats. Joanne Vigor Mungovan, who was a biographer of his, and she also is the author of Joseph, the Lifetimes and Places of the Elephant Man.
Okay.
She happened to stumble upon his grave, actually. So she's a biographer of his. This is so interesting.
What a wild thing to stumble on.
Yeah, so she also studies and like does research and I think wrote a book on these victims of Jack the Ripper. So she'll visit these two victims' graves every year in this London cemetery. She was like visiting it and she was thinking about it because she also was a biographer of Joseph Merrick. And she was like, I bet you his grave is here because it's a Royal London Cemetery. So she's like poking around and she looks through
Royal London Hospital, Royal London Cemetery. Makes
right,
sense.
Exactly. So she looks throughout the whole cemetery and she does find his grave.
So how is this hard to find then? Because
I mean, maybe nobody was looking for it. She found it in May of last year.
Well, so when you said last year, you mean last year, like 2019?
19. Yeah. May.
Okay. So this person who was doing all this research and stuff, this is much after the fact.
Very much. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I was thinking that she was of the time, and I was like, you why didn't you ask the doctors? That makes so much more sense.
Yeah, no, this is very, very recent. But this is the thing is, no one really knew about him until that movie came out. And like, there's an adaptation, there's like a play in the 70s, and then the movie came out in 1980. But prior to that, no one really knew about him. So there's probably no interest about his grave. And so she's like, I'm going to find it then.
To have something if anyone wants to But it's a bummer because it's like he really didn't have much like family that seems like they gave a
Not
shit,
at all.
Like he had that shitty dad and shitty stepmom, and like his uncle was kind of nice, but he was like not nice enough to actually help. Yeah. And that was the last time he was with family.
Yeah. No. And in this documentary that I watched on Amazon, it was like when they were trying to trace back his lineage, they were like, man, there's no family. And also when they got in touch with family now that were related to him, they had to go back to Mary Jane Potterton because everybody with the last name Merrick had erased him from their past. They were like, we're not related.
Why?
They're just like, we're not related, because in that time they were like, they just denied it. They're just like, we're not related.
Like, what did they
we're
think?
not related.
What kind of
we're not related.
Bad juju were they afraid of? Like,
they just didn't want to be affiliated with that guy.
What the fuck were they doing that was so grand? Because no one's fucking talking about them now. Your legacy that you're trying to protect, no one gives a shit, dude.
Yeah. But that was the thing, is like one woman, and she was probably in her 70s, but she was just like, I asked my great grandparents and they were like, nope, no, like, no, that's not someone we're related to. Crazy. Like, it was just like drilled into them. It was kind of nuts.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their parents must have just been like, you don't talk about it. It didn't happen, which is such a strange thing. You got to wonder what like the public eye version of this was, like, was it the kind of thing that like he was like generally looked down upon? Unfortunately, like it seems so strange that like,
I mean, of that time, it's like people were so ignorant to anything like that, and especially because his condition was so severe. They're probably like, you can't look at him, you can't touch him, you're gonna get it.
Maybe they were afraid that like, yeah, that was probably it. And I bet you that they were afraid that other people would think, okay, if we're associated with him, then we have it, and we're also
or they'll think we'll have it. Yeah, anything like that. But Joanne Vigor Mungovan says, quote, he was more than a freak show. Those who met him saw beyond his deformities, as I did when I wrote my book. I focused more on the man, not his condition. He was an educated young man with an inquisitive mind. Joseph had the ability to make good judgments and make quick decisions, which saw him turn his disadvantage to a great advantage. So it's like he did the best he could with what he had. It was just fucking, I mean, really, man.
That's all anybody can
if you think about it, like he was able to,
jeez Louise,
and kind of by chance also towards the end of his life, but have a nice shelter and place to live, have medical care, and also hang out with all these like royal people and fancy people, which was good.
Yeah. I mean, which it is nice that by the end of his life, he did have some semblance of like comfort, because for so much of his life, he's just like
shit on,
basically trying to survive, like just survival mode the
Truly.
Whole time.
Like it's
and
so
people are just
sad.
like, oh, you're trying to live? Fuck you. Like, just fuck you. Give me your money. Like, let's exploit you. It's just like no semblance of kindness from anybody until the very end of his life.
Yeah, it's wild. It's
how many years did he live in the hospital?
Well, he went in there in 1886, so 4 years.
4 years. Okay. Well, at least the last 4 were like, probably as good as he could get at the time.
In writings of Treves, like Frederick Treves' real writings, he's just like, he's super sensitive. He's really kind. Yeah. He loves nature. He loves being outside. I mean, obviously, for someone that's like in the alleys of London, it's just like has Seriously. To be covered up all the time. I'm sure like an open field. He's like, fuck, amazing.
Yeah, let me just like lay in the grass and like not be judged.
It's just a sad story, but nice that he had some
he gets a little bit of something by the end, or at least the best case. It is nice that despite the fact that this doctor and probably many of them for the most part were doing it for like they're just like medically interested in it, like it is nice that at the very least the byproduct of that is that he got some kind of comfort for the last few years, like because the way his life was going, like if you would make a prediction, you'd think like, okay, so he goes back then and then they start doing tests on him for the rest of his life. You know what I mean? Like,
right. And they didn't. So that's nice.
It's nice that they were like, okay, let's give this guy a fucking break.
Yeah, he just needs to live. I mean, I'm sure they were like, how are you feeling? What are you
Yeah,
eating?
and they'd have notepads
And
with them. It's like, do you feel like weirder than usual?
sleeping?
You're like,
Still sleeping forward? Okay.
yeah, still slipping up. That's all good. Okay, cool. And anything new? Did you develop superpowers?
Yeah,
no?
right?
Okay,
Can you see
cool,
through
cool,
walls
cool.
yet?
Yes,
Cool.
very good. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the story of Joseph Merrick, aka the Elephant
boy.
Man, the originator of the 27 Club.
Yeah, seriously. I wonder how like many of these age clubs actually exist. You know what I mean? Like if it's just coincidence because these people are in the public eye and like because I think it's like statistically, I do wonder like what is the like age that like there'd probably be these groups for every number.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just with the amount of people out there who do die. But it is interesting that like something about show business and success when you're young can set you up.
That's
for
what I
failure.
think a huge part of it is. Must be. Obviously for musicians.
Yeah.
They introduce them to drugs when they're 22 and then they go for it.
Go for it because like when you're that age, if you are the type of person who's going to try them, that's the age you're going to do it. And also because you have so much pressure on you. And I feel like as you get later into life in general, there just tends to be a lot of just like, oh, fuck, what is life? What's going on with me? Can I deal with my own bullshit? And then if you have learned that drugs and alcohol are the way to like relax, then they become your coping mechanism. So like, it's just going to go downhill from there.
I'm really trying to make the Elephant Man like a cool heroin addict, Mark. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry to take that from you.
I'm teasing. We'll make him a Basquiat artist, tortured artist.
I mean, he definitely had the arts in him. So
he did.
I mean,
he made that cathedral.
He did. I mean, could you imagine if he had enough time and like, peace to like actually explore a hobby that he cared about? Like he might have actually been really good at something.
Yeah. The Lynch movie it's good in its accuracy. It'll pull on your heartstrings for sure.
I bet.
Yeah, it's pretty. It was like nominated for 8 Academy Awards.
That's
it didn't win it. It didn't win any, but it was nominated.
Yeah. And that's all that matters these days.
Worth a watch though. But yeah, so that's the story of Joseph Merrick.
Oh boy, what a trooper.
Sorry to be a downer, but we had to do it.
He's a big profile case and we got to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I am glad that there is some semblance of a happy ending. Like, if we want to go with the David Lynch narrative of it, that he like, he went out on his own terms and he did it in his very poetic way. Like, regardless of what happened, that let's go with that narrative because it at the end of the day, it kind of doesn't matter.
And that is echoed by a few other people. I've read that a couple places where they suspect that was what he did. Who knows? But like, a lot of people suspect that that's what he was going for. That was his intent. That was his intention.
I mean, yeah, it would make sense. He had a really hard life, and he basically was told by doctors that it just continues to get worse and like pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
So like,
and the pain, like he was in pain all the time.
Yeah, that's another thing.
So it's probably like all right, well, pain? I'm good.
How much of that? Yeah, there's only so much that you can.
Yeah, endure.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And, maybe things would have been different if his like life for the, first like 75% or whatever wasn't so brutal. But like, you know what I mean? Like if he had the like comfort of the hospital most of his life, maybe he would have like stuck around if it was a choice. But he just had such a bad hand handed to him. Like,
yeah,
it's
really
just
did.
shitty thing after shitty thing until the very end of his life. And then it also made me feel good that there were people who were kind of like pitched in to like get him this thing, because so many times in his life people are just being absolute shits to him.
Right. Yeah.
And at least at the very end it's like, okay, people are capable of doing nice things.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
We often need reminding of that even today.
The film is nice as far as like it exhibits the humanity of people. It's a good movie, but and also I'm pretty sure there's a boiler in the movie. I'm like, then I think that's a boiler. There's a smarmy character in there, and he's like, kind of like adding air to this. I think it's a boiler. It has like fire inside of it. This big thing. And like it's in the basement, and it has fire.
Probably a boiler.
Probably a boiler.
I mean,
And they just left that fire going and he left. And I was like,
oh, yeah.
That's a boiler.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
It's gotta be.
And maybe just because it's like this whole thing, it's circus related. If David Lynch did any of his research, maybe he was like, I gotta do homage to the the legacy of boilers
right?
in the circus.
It's nothing without a boiler, really.
No, it's not. Ain't no show unless it blows up.
Ain't no showbiz until explosion.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm trying to get into the circus business. It's like, how many buildings have burned down on your watch?
How many fires on your belt,
like,
kid?
None. Get out, amateur. Come back when you've had 2 at least.
At least.
Well, if you got 4, I don't need any more explanation from you. I don't need any background check. I don't need nothing. You could have 0 in your pocket except for a knife, and I would hire you.
Yeah, you need a knife to get out of the fire, and then you need 4 fires.
Just in case. And then you need 4 fires, and you're good. That's the resume
That's
need
right.
to see.
That's all I need. Man, fire. Well, that's it, circus friends, and we'll see you next episode. Please check your boilers.
Please check them. We don't want anyone getting hurt.
We don't.
Not you or the boilers.
But tell us if it happens.
Yeah, and if anyone has any boiler stories, sound off in the comments.
Yes, please. And if you want to look at any of the images that we talked about, you can check our Instagram, which is at circus.stories. And if you have cool circus anecdotes or whatever, you can email us at circusstoriespodcast@gmail.
You can also feel free to send us fan art.
Yeah, like Mark as an elephant.
yeah, like an like make pictures of like the elephant with the suit on, or like the chicken doctors.
Chicken doctors
would be great.
Yeah, I love a good chicken doctor.
Kelly, I don't know if I sent this to you. I think Catherine, you saw it, but my roommate heard this story a while back and was sharing it with us, and then I shared it in the group text. But there was a rooster that learned to both roller skate and ice skate, and it wore overalls.
What?
Yes.
Custom made.
If you Google
obvious.
it, there is Buster the Rooster. It's a real rooster that had this little act with this little girl, and the images of it I cannot get over because it's wearing size appropriate overalls while roller skating. It's absolutely insane.
Buster the Rooster. I mean, great name.
It's truly spectacular.
Oh, Buster the roller skating rooster. Yep. Thanks, Google.
Yep.
Holy shit.
There's a whole our news
God.
article about it. Like,
fuck.
Right? For the people at home, look this shit up. It's gold.
Oh, I'm posting these, baby. Yeah. Oh, this is amazing. Well, Buster's better than a doctor.
Look at his pants. Are you fucking kidding me with those pants?
It's almost like he's pulling them up because water's coming in. It's like, he's like, oh shit, there's a flood. Oh my God, this is great.
Because they're like shorts too. They stop at the ankle. It's so good.
And he's ice skating. Oh my God.
He does both. And with the little girl.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Wait, so... Bill, shut the fuck up. Kathy,
it's insane.
This is the best thing I've ever seen. I think
it's really
truly
good.
Anywhere. This isn't LA. This is Los Angeles.
Yeah. I mean, just his little
we really know how to do it, don't we?
They're like striped overalls. They stop at the ankle. They're my favorite
Weird
thing.
universe, man. This is so funny.
So there's a lot of terrible bullshit going on today. So just treat yourself to looking this rooster up. Buster the Rooster. There's news articles about him and there's images. And it is
even
a treat
Pinterest can't decide if this is bad or good. It says either this is animal cruelty or a very silly rooster. They're like, I can't.
I mean, this is the most talented rooster I've ever heard of.
I can't not love it. I love it.
No.
I love it.
I mean, his pants are too good. A lot of times I don't think animals like wearing clothes. This is too good. This is just too good.
Boost him? Oh, there's some little writing on his overalls. Oh man, this is fuck. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I'm also gonna send you guys that really scary clown video that I promised I wouldn't send you, but I'm gonna do it.
Thank you for waiting this long to send.
Hopefully you're not scared of it.
I'm pretty good with clowns.
Are you? Catherine, how are you good? Are you okay with clowns?
That's not.
It's a machine. It's like a fake thing. You pull his bow tie and then he laughs maniacally. And then his eyes move.
Ah, excellent.
It's a lot.
It sounds scary.
Remember I told you the story about how it was in the hallway on the way to where my brother and I used to sleep as small children.
And if you didn't pay homage to him.
We couldn't help but pull it. Also, if we didn't pull it, like, my grandpa would pull it anyways. Or somebody. They're just like...
Someone had to. Like, did you guys know at the time.
Yeah.
But the grandpa was like, if we don't pull this 3 times every night before midnight,
he's going to come to
he
life.
comes to life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the Nutcracker. Oh, man. Well, you're both going to get that video, and I'm sorry.
Heck yeah.
All right. Well, that's the Elephant Man, and check your boilers,
Elephant
friends.
Man. Check them out. Make sure they're good.
Or off.
Or blow them up. Fucking whatever you want, man.
Throw fireworks in there. See what happens.
It's your life. Yeah, do you.
So we'll see you next week with more Circus Ridiculous. And check your boilers. And see you down the road, kids.
See you next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.